Welcome to the NWR Aussie Resources Conference. My name is Kerry Simmons. We've got an upcoming IPO for you, ladies and gentlemen. Very exciting. ASX code will be CMG. The company name is Critical Minerals Group, kind of as it sounds. They are Critical Minerals. The flagship tenement is their Lindfield Vanadium project up here in Julia Creek in northern Queensland. Here to tell the story, Scott Drelincourt, Managing Director. Over to you, Scott. Let's go.
Cheers, Kerry. Thanks for your introduction. Thanks for your time. As you mentioned, I'm the Managing Director and CEO of Critical Minerals Group. Very excited to be here today and talk you through the company, do an introduction to who we are and what we've got. And without further ado, I'll get straight into it.
Go for it.
So this will be live. You can get it from our website as well, so you can read this at your leisure. But as Critical Minerals Group, we are focused on meeting the growing demand for minerals that are going to be critical to ensuring a carbon neutral future. And that underpins fundamentally who we are as a company. We are Critical Minerals Group. We'll be looking to develop multiple projects under that banner. However, we'll get into the investment highlights of our company and what we've already got in play. As you mentioned, we are in the middle of an IPO, and we'll talk through that as well. So we already have a JORC resource. We have a 210 million tonne inferred JORC resource at surface down to approximately 35 metres depth. It's at 0.39% V2O5, that's vanadium pentoxide. We are in an established mining region just outside Mount Isa, near the township of Julia Creek. We have infrastructure in place, being road and rail, going directly through our tenement to the Port of Townsville. We have significant government incentives supporting us directly and indirectly for our projects. And we're offering at the moment very favourable enterprise value of $3.8 million, which I don't think you'll find in the current market with the company that has a resource with infrastructure already in place. We'll get into it. I think the market understands now the energy transition that's happening globally. So I don't really need to talk about it too much anymore, but everyone understands that we're here to capitalise on this, and we're not just a flash in the pan. We've been pursuing this for quite a while. But we'll touch on the government incentives that directly apply to us as a company, how that's going to drive the acceleration for our development of our flagship vanadium project, and we'll get into that now. So we've already got a fully funded vanadium pilot plant under construction now, and that's fully funded by the federal government of about $1.2 odd million. And that'll come online October, November this year. So we'll be looking to run a couple of tonnes of our ore through that pilot plant to understand the process flow sheet methodology and some economics behind that, and also to try and produce some V2O5 vanadium pentoxide, which is ultimately to be used in the large-scale battery storage market. We also have a vanadium demonstration plant underway, getting built in Townsville, which is at the end of our road and rail line as well. Now, that is fully funded by the state government. They made an announcement at the very end of last year. Their Treasurer, Cameron Dick, Scott Stewart, Resource Minister, and Anastasia Palaszczuk committing a minimum of $10 million to build this multi-user large-scale demonstration plant for vanadium processing, and we'll be looking to run our ore through that as well. And the purpose of that will be to try and secure, by that stage, binding off-take agreements for our mine, yet to be mined, that we'd like to have under application and then planned for construction. But further incentives continue to come from state and federal. A couple of months, probably about a month and a half ago, the Queensland government also announced it contributed a further $15 million to the National Battery Testing Centre in Brisbane. We are partners with the National Battery Testing Centre as well. So we'll be looking to provide them with our vanadium precursors and vanadium pentoxide to test for national and international battery standard testing and sign-off, as there is no international standard for vanadium electrolyte for batteries. So we'll be looking to be part of that, and for Australia and Queensland to lead the world in those standards as well. But it does continue, so it's quite good for us, is Anthony Albanese, upon his appointment of Prime Minister, also announced he'll be contributing or the government will be contributing $100 million equity injection into battery manufacturing in Queensland. So that ties the whole processing loop, manufacturing, offtake, downstream for the manufacturing to the electrolytes for batteries, right through to production of battery units. Trying to create a circular economy from state and federal support there. And that is really going to be a key driver in accelerating the development of our flagship vanadium project as well. So very fortunate to have the support of both state and federal government here helping drive our projects. So I've already touched on a little bit that we are a critical minerals company focused on decarbonisation. We are very much underpinned by our ESG principles, and that is what's guiding and partly the formation of who we are today. We do have a flagship project, which we're touching on at the moment, we'll continue to do, which is our vanadium project out at Lindfield. But we have two other really exciting projects as well. Copper and gold plays out at Cloncurry, and we'll touch on those lightly as we move forward. But it's probably important for people to understand today, or even though we've got a resource and we're coming in at a very significant low value and we've got great government support, it's where we want to take this company. We want to be a producer of multiple critical mineral deposits, and we want to be looking to invest further downstream into those critical minerals that we develop, the technologies that come from those, whether it's batteries or other technologies that are derived from what the minerals we produce. We don't want to be just a miner that produces an ore and sells an ore. We think there's a lot more opportunity and valorization in the supply chain of the ore further downstream. So we want to capture that as well. And we'll be looking to continue to build our assets in our portfolio as we grow as a company. Our board and makeup itself. Myself, I'm a geologist by trade, having worked in everything from exploration, development, operational, open cut underground, acquisition, divestments, assessments, etc., etc. I've done pretty much all you could do as a geologist. But sitting on the top as our chairman, very fortunate to have is Alan Broome AM, who received his Order of Australia for his services to mining. He's on the board for DDH1 drilling, advisor to the CSIRO. His CV is quite extensive, and we're very fortunate to have him on board. He believes very much in our pathway for development of these projects, and is a big believer in the strategy and ethos of us decarbonising and driving the energy transition as well. We also have a non-executive director, Art Malone, engineer by trade. He's the managing director of Peak Helium, Graphinex, and a few other companies as well. So we have a tight but very skill-based and experience-based board. So back onto the main play though. So we believe that vanadium has a critical role to play in the future of energy, with vanadium consumption forecast to grow at a compound rate of about 41% year on year up to 2031. Sources there from the Guidehouse white paper. That's quite a significant growth that we think we can be a small part of supplying large-scale battery storage solutions domestically and eventually internationally as well. So we'll continue to look at that, as particularly in the downstream opportunities as well that follow from our operations and development. Yeah, and at the moment, the region of Julia Creek is considered one of the largest vanadium deposits in the world, and we will look to be one of the first vanadium producers in Australia and that region to supply vanadium for electrolytes and batteries globally and domestically as well. So the flagship project looks like this. It's just outside the township of Julia Creek. As you can see, it is intersected by the Flinders Highway and the Great Northern Rail. Outcrops at surface, as I mentioned. We have about 44 drill holes controlling the current model within the tenement, and there's about 98 drill holes total that define our resource. That's quite already well defined. And we'll tell you what we're going to do with that resource and how we're going to further develop that. So I mentioned we have inferred JORC resource, 210 million tonnes. Grade is 0.39% V2O5. We'll do some peer comparisons in a moment. The site has 44 drill holes, as I mentioned. It's shallow, outcrops at surface. We also have the potential to look at producing high purity aluminium, which again is another critical mineral. We have some aluminium content within our seam and our overburden, which we'll look to understand in our processing studies as well as a secondary byproduct to produce when we go through our processing regime as well. It's also to be noted that this style of geology in the Julie Creek region lends itself to less contamination compared to the hard rock guys, where we don't have to remove other metals which are considered contaminants, such as titanium, to extract our vanadium. So it's a cleaner pathway for production to produce a higher purity battery grade electrolyte, B2O5 as well. And the processing route is a lot simplified as well, which you'll see coming up now. So here's a cross section from our deposit, taken directly from the model. As you can see, it outcrops its surface. That's just the layer of soil, 0.5 metre thick, the quaternary layer. It's homogeneous in deposition, that is, its thickness, its grade, etc., are very continuous and consistent across multiple kilometres. It averages approximately 10 metres thick. It's broken into 3 main pies within the seam. The upper unit is a limestone dominant unit. Middle unit is a limestone shale dominant unit interbedded. And then the bottom unit is a shale unit, all containing the vanadium. It'll be a method of simply open cut mining method. It'll be free dig, as it's quite friable and soft. That means no blasting, again, lower costs. You simply do a coarse crush there, and through beneficiation, which is a stage of flotation to remove the limestone, you are left with the vanadium concentrate in the aluminum silicates. And that gives you, based on historical data and regional work from our peers, a 5-fold increase in vanadium content, which you see here in situ, which is 0.39%. So that may be in the rounds of approximately 2% we would hope for our processing studies from beneficiation upgrade. From there, you simply dissolve in acid, leach, and then solvent extraction to produce your B2O5. So it's not a complex processing route or capex intensive either. So again, that's why it's a very attractive project, and that's probably why the governments have also supported this. In the region, we've got some of our peers in there as well. At the moment, you can see us in the bold black outline there with the green. We've got a few of our peers to compare in the next slide. So we've got a company here called Multicom Resources, who have completed a PFS and a DFS, have a mining lease granted, and looking to raise finances now to get their construction underway for their mine. They are a private company, and we'll do a grade comparison of theirs in a moment, but we will see our grade is significantly higher than theirs. And we'll be quite confident to have more favourable economics than those guys, and who have already completed their definitive feasibility study. There's another company to the north called Veco Group. They're about 30, 40 kilometres north of road and rail, so we're better positioned and we're shallower, and there's a few others in the region as well. So we believe we're pretty much better placed with infrastructure and grade and resource. So at the moment, that's us there at 0.39%, 210 million tonnes. Veco Group, who sit about 18 metres below surface, 0.44%, 175 million tonnes, 40 odd kilometres away from road and rail. Multicom Resources, who I just touched on, have their mining lease approved, sitting at a grade of 0.25%, and we're nearly double their grade already. And we'll talk about how we're going to increase our grade and our resource in the next slide. So our plans straight after IPO, which we'll talk about in a moment, we'll be going out to site to do our drilling program, and we'll be doing about 24 large diameter core holes, 4-inch core, and that'll serve 2 purposes. The main purpose of that, though, is to collect enough ore, approximately 2+ tonnes, to feed through the pilot plant this year, at the end of this year. But the upside by doing it through large diameter core holes over that distance will also allow us to do a JORC increase in size, category, and grade, hopefully. So that's what we'll be aiming to do straight after listing. We'll be going out to site drilling. News flow will be drilling underway, resource upgrade, and there'll be other news flow as well. Pilot metallurgical work to be undertaken or underway, and then pilot plant work to commence, and then results of that as well, and then the scoping study following the pilot plant to show the economics of that project, whether it's the processing route and or the economic and mine design as well. But we do have two other really exciting projects as well, both in the copper and gold plays of areas of Cloncurry. The first one we'll talk about now quickly will be Fig Tree Creek. Now that's just south of the township of Cloncurry, and the town, and in the green there you see the very well-known mine, the Great Australian Mine. What you see in our tenement area in the southern portion is a historical mining lease that was never exploited and that is now terminated. That region over that area there has the same geophysical electromagnetic signature as the Great Australian Mine, so that gives us a bit of confidence there as well.
Couple of minutes left, Scott.
Yes.
Only two minutes left.
Sure. That gives us a bit of confidence about the region. But the main thing about this that gives us a lot of confidence is, besides the copper and gold anomalies picked up in a plethora of surface sampling and sampling work, there's never been one drill hole put over it. So that blows my mind for an area like that that's just heavily underexplored. So we'll go out, map it, define it, and define our drill targets, and that's what we'll be looking to do initially, and then go out and drill. The exact same rationale applies here for Lorena Surrounds, again in Cloncurry, surrounded by Great Australian Mine, Lorena Mine, Glencore's Mount Margaret Mine, heavily underexplored as well, shows copper and gold anomalies. We'll be able to site the map, do mobile iron sampling as well on both projects to define our drill targets. So very, very exciting greenfield exploration upsides, as well as what development of our flagship project. We'll go past the use of funds, predominantly to be spent on drilling and engineering and scoping studies as mentioned, and planning for a PFS leading up to that. We have closed our offers for our IPO as of yesterday, the 12th of September, which we are oversubscribed, and we'll talk about those numbers later. And we'll be looking to list and start trading on the 27th of September. We have also secured a strategic investor from the mining and resource industry, which we'll talk about as well in the upcoming announcements. But that's very, very exciting news and a bit of a coup for all junior mining companies and explorers globally. So I think we've got a lot of exciting news to come up for our investors.
Thanks, Scott. Scott, quickly, are you able to disclose the cornerstone stakeholder, because they took $3.5 million in the IPO?
Not at the moment. When the ASX is able, when we're able to disclose the top 20 shareholders from the ASX, we'll be able to disclose that. And that'll only be a week or so from now. But all I can say is it's a known entity from the mining and resource industry, and that's all I can say at the moment.
Okay. How advanced is this Lindfield Vanadium project? Because there's a lot of things around it, like, environmental approvals and all those sorts of things. Do you anticipate getting into production to 2025, or there's a lot of
aiming to have the mining lease approved by then, and have and be construction ready, production ready, or get ready for production by 2025. That's our aim. I suppose that's because we have a significant amount of government incentive already driving the development. So we're planning now for some works that are going to feed into the PFS now. So we're getting that kind of work understood and ready to go into it. We have no native tile over our tenement as well, so that's great. We've got one landowner, makes the process a lot more smoother. We have one landowner to deal with, which is also good, and he's very good to deal with. And the environmental side of things, it's pretty barren out there. There's almost little to no vegetation. There's some burley Mitchell grass and some weeds, being the prickly acacia. So besides that, it's pretty flat and barren out there. So I don't foresee any real environmental issues with the assessment and approval process there either.
All right, Scott, I've got a ton more questions, but unfortunately we have run out of time. Good luck with the IPO, ASX code CMG. Thanks so much for joining us at the NWR Aussie Resources Conference today.
No worries. Thanks for your time, Kerry, and thanks everyone.
Cheers.